Hello and welcome back to the channel. I hope you guys are having an amazing day today. We have an exciting episode today.
We do.
We are going to teach you guys the difference between a pressure pot and a vacuum chamber. We have them lined up on the bench, ready to go, and I think we just get straight into it.
Good idea.
So I guess we should start with what's the main difference between pressure and vacuum. So the pressure pot, you apply pressure in, creating pressure obviously, and the vacuum chamber pulls air out, creating the vacuum.
It does, yeah.
Now the pots are easily distinguishable by their lids.
Yeah.
Because in a vacuum, the lid doesn't get clamped on, it just sits on top. Because as you pull the vacuum, it actually sucks the lid down. And on the pressure pot, the lid needs to be clamped because as you apply the pressure, it wants to push the lid off. So you have to clamp it down. It's got to be a bit of a beefier design.
It does.
I guess, nice and strong to withhold the pressures. So I guess if you're watching this video, you might be asking yourself, which one do I need and what do they actually do?
Yep.
So we're going to cover that. We're also going to cover how to set them up, what extra things you need, like what compressor do I need for that, what pump do I need for that, what lines do I need, all that kind of stuff. And I think then we'll also do some demonstrations.
Good idea.
We are going to run pot cam. So I'll actually put a camera inside of here and we can watch it do its thing.
Yep.
So that'll be pretty exciting. You guys know we run pot cam on the main channel. So you guys can see that. And then we'll also do a vacuum. We'll pull a vacuum for you guys, which is easy to see.
No camera needed for this.
Easy to see because we can just show in the lid there.
Yep.
So that's the plan for this video. I think it's going to be exciting. I think what we might do now is explain what the pressure actually does. So standing here right now, we have about 14 pounds per square inch of pressure exerted on our bodies, right, at sea level.
Yep.
Now inside the pressure pot, we ramp that up to between 50 to 60 pounds per square inch, right?
Lot.
So imagine you're this tiny bubble and you have 60 pounds of pressure put upon you, you get squished.
Yeah.
Really tiny. And it's so tiny that you can't see it with the naked eye, right? So every time you put resin that has bubbles inside the pressure pot and you pump it up, all you're doing is exerting enough force to squish those bubbles so tiny you can't see them. Now, in order to apply our pressure, we need something called an air compressor, right? Now, I often get asked, what size air compressor do I need? Now, to be honest, you don't need a massive one, right?
Bigger's not always better.
This is a time where size doesn't really matter that much, right? So we want to pump to, like I said, 50 to 60 PSI. So you need a compressor that can at least pump to 60 PSI, maybe even 70 PSI, right? Now I'll show you our air compressor. And as you can see, it's a tiny one. Look at it against my hand. Not very big at all. In fact, it's a 1 horsepower and it can go to 125 PSI. And this is an ultra quiet oil-free version, which means the motors at the back here don't require any oil. And the main reason we wanted that is years and years ago, when we first started making dragon eggs, we were working right through the night, weren't we?
Yes, we were.
We were sometimes in here till midnight, and we didn't want to annoy the neighbours, so we bought this ultra quiet one so that, you know, we didn't wake anyone up.
No.
And it's been brilliant.
Oh, it has, yeah.
So you don't need a big compressor as long as your compressor has fittings like these here. I think they're called NICOLE'S fittings from memory. They basically just clip onto like air tools, spray guns, anything like that. As long as the hose fitting matches your fitting on your pot. And I think most pots come standard with this one. I think is the NICOLE'S fitting. I will check it and I'll just put it here for you. But as long as both fittings match, you're good to go. And your compressor can do at least what your pot, that's actually another good point. Your pot has a manufacturer's specification.
Yes, it does.
So don't over pressurize your pot. If the manufacturer says 50 is the max, make sure 50 is your max.
Yep.
And all pots should, right, if they're a good manufacturer, should come with one of these little safety valves here. So basically what that means is if you got your line on here and you're putting your air in like that, and someone says, oh, hey, Nicole, what do I do here? And you kind of walk away and get distracted, what's going to happen is, as soon as it reaches the safety limit, this little valve here will pop.
Oh, so automatically?
It'll automatically pop, and the air will come out.
Okay.
All right, but don't sort of
You
rely
wouldn't
on.
want to rely on it.
Don't rely on that
No.
because who knows, they could become sticky or whatnot. So you don't want to over pressurize your pot because obviously then things will split and it'll be mayhem. So always stay with your pot if possible. And often when I'm filling my pots, if I do get called away, I actually just shut it off. Then go do what I got to do.
And then come back.
Come back and keep applying my pressure. So that is all you need for your pressure pot to apply the pressure is a compressor. Pretty simple. A few other things I will point out on the lid. So this is, I think, a version from California Tools. I'll leave a link in the description if you want to check this one out. It's super simple. It's sold as a resin pressure pot, which is nice because often you got to buy paint pressure pots and convert them, which I've done in the past, and I will show you guys a bit later on how that works.
Yes.
Because that's a whole different thing altogether. But if you buy one like this, it's pretty simple. It's basically, you don't want any outlets. You need all your outlets need to be blocked.
Yes.
And as you can see here, there's an outlet up here that has a valve. You just got to make sure it stays closed. Here is another outlet. Once again, make sure it stays closed. And then all you have is your one inlet. So one in, and that's all you need.
That's pretty easy.
Because your inlet will become your outlet, which we'll show a bit later on. Because once we put pressure in, we open the valve, air comes in. Once we're done, we shut the valve, we take it off. That keeps the pressure in there
In
now.
the pot, yep.
That's it. And then when you're ready, you just come along and release your pressure. Really
Very easy.
Really simple.
Yep.
I will show you guys a bit later on how that actually works. But I think what I might do now, do you think that's enough coverage on the pressure?
I do, apart from showing
Yep.
how it all
I mean, we
works.
can take the lid off and show you guys inside. Now, our pots are set up for multiple castings. So we have a shelf inside, and we also have a base of silicon. Now, the reason we do that, you can see we do have a couple of bits of resin stuck. And see that? They just pop straight off. And Nicole actually loves to keep these because we're going to make something with all these one day.
Yeah, it'll take us a while to get enough.
Yep.
But we'll keep collecting.
That's right. Now, when you do get your pots from brand new, often the bottoms are concaved like this. So what I like to do is I like to put it on a nice flat surface, put my level across the top here, get the pot level. If you need to, whack some sticks under there, whatever you have to do. Then I get some resin, I mix some resin, I pour it in there, just enough to get to the top of the concave, right? Mm-hmm. So we're making a level and just let it set. Don't move the pot, keep it level.
I thought you only put silicon in. I didn't realise you did resin as well.
Yep, resin as well, because silicon's quite expensive.
Yes.
So if I start with a resin base first to bring it up, then once that's done, I mix up a bit of silicon and pour it in there. Same again, have it nice and level. And that's what you get. Now, if you don't want to do that, you can buy, I don't know if we've got any lying around here at the moment, but we just have inserts. You know the silicon baking trays?
Ah, yes. Yep.
We just cut to size and throw it in there.
Yeah, like a cake baking silicon one.
Yeah, because there has been times in the past where Nicole's accidentally turned this valve too fast or too quick to let the air in, and it rushes in, and when you have resin in there, it
hits the project and splits it all everywhere.
That's right, and you'll see a few of our pots have splatter.
Yeah, that's from me.
Around the outside or in the bottom. So it is handy to always have a bit of silicon in there for easier cleanup. And like I say, we have a shelf for when we do multiple pours. I've just got some magnets in here. You can move them up and down. I like that because that way it's easier to level the shelf.
Yes, it is.
Because I can just put it in and then push it wherever I want to level it. And that gives us a bit more room to do multiples.
Yep.
You can also, which I have over here, is I bought some leveling feet. And I have put them on one of my other pots. I haven't done it on this one yet, but you can see there's holes here. You can put leveling feet on there. That way, if you move it from one spot to another, you can easily
readjust it.
Easily level the feet. So that is the basic workings of a pressure pot. This is a pressure regulator. It screws in and out. Now, the way that works is, let's say I put my line on and I go to put the pressure in, but let's say it only gets to 15 or 20 psi,
Yeah.
it's because this regulator's not adjusted properly.
Oh, okay, I didn't know what that actually was.
Yep. But what I like to do is I like to just screw them all the way.
Yep.
That way, it's not actually regulating the pressure at all. I'm the person regulating the pressure.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Via this. I mean, if you're a full novice, it wouldn't hurt to have this set at maybe 50 or 60.
Yep.
That way, you know, you can plug it in, let the air go in, and this regulator will stop it from overpressurizing.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Okay. But I like to just control it myself by watching the gauge and controlling the lever.
Yep. But if you're not sure when you
Yep.
first start using
and you know what?
have it on.
We'll show you guys how that works. We'll do a bit of a demo on that. So that is the pressure pot basic principles. Air goes in, squishes the bubbles so tiny you can't see them. Pretty simple, right? Now, why do I need a vacuum chamber if I can just do that with a pressure pot? Well, like I said earlier, a vacuum chamber creates vacuum, pulling the air out. Now that's good for two main reasons. Now the first one, and the reason that we mainly use it for, is to degas our resin. And degassing basically means pulling the air out, right?
Yep.
So when you're mixing your resin, you create a lot of bubbles, a lot of air.
Yeah, I do that a lot.
You create a lot more air than me, yeah. So when you do introduce all that air, you need to get it out. So we put it inside the vacuum chamber, we create a vacuum, it pulls all the air to the top,
Yep.
and they pop, right? Now the good thing for that is, if you're using molds like this, right, and especially one this size, look at the size of this thing.
Size of my face.
Bigger than your head. It doesn't fit inside our pressure pot,
No.
right? So we then have to pour them just out in the open on a bench like that, right? Now, the way we eliminate the bubbles is to degas.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
Degas, clear resin, then we can pour it in. Now, you need to make sure you do pour slowly because you don't want to reintroduce bubbles.
The bubbles, yeah.
So you pour slowly, and that way you get a nice clear casting out of a mold, right? Now, if you have a mold like this, for instance, which is quite intricate.
It is.
You can see there's a lot of detail in there. We still degas our resin, but before we pour it in, we give it a little spritz with some alcohol.
Yeah, not too much.
Not too much, just a little bit. And we find that helps to pop any bubbles or release any trapped air
Yeah.
in the little
Gets into all the little details.
yeah, the nooks and crannies.
Yeah.
So that is the main reason for a vacuum chamber. So degas the resin. Now you don't need one like this, where it's a pot and a pump. As you guys know, we've been doing resin for 7-8 years now. And this is sort of all you could get back then.
It was, yeah.
I've got a bigger one over there. You can see a massive, where is it? There.
Yep.
Big steel one there. That runs a pump just like this. But now you can actually get them all in one.
I know, right?
There's a few companies out there that do them now. So that makes it nice and simple. You just pull the lid off, put your cup in,
Yep.
put it on. You guys have seen us use it before in the past. So that keeps it nice and simple.
It does.
If you do have larger or more volume of resin, that's where these come in handy.
Yes.
To do bigger projects. Now, the second part of needing a vacuum chamber is if you're casting an object in resin.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
Now, very early on in my resin career, I did the Star Trek ship in a bottle.
You did.
You guys have probably all seen it. It's one of the most popular videos on the main channel. I've actually got it sitting on the bench over there. Do you want to go grab it for me, darling? So when doing an item inside of resin, they can often have air inside, right? And when you have air trapped inside and the air releases, this is what you get. Now, I was kind of lucky with this.
You were.
I hit like a Bob Ross happy little accident, didn't I?
You did.
Because I was using the Star Trek ship, Enterprise, it created like a warp, what would you call it? Like
a time
warp
warp?
speed, you know, like, I don't know. It created a nice effect, put it that way.
Yes, it did.
But that was actually caused by air that was trapped inside this model, right? Now, I have since done more ships in bottles.
Ships in bottles?
Ships in bottles.
Yep.
Where I have then, as I've poured the resin inside the mold, I've put it inside the vacuum chamber. And what I've done is I've pulled the air out of the model.
You have, yes.
Right, and what happens is, so you pull the air out of the model, creating that vacuum. But then when you release the vacuum, it actually replaces that air with resin.
Yeah, it's like sucks it back in.
It sucks in.
Yeah.
Imagine it like you're drinking your favorite soft drink, right? And you know, you're really thirsty and you drink it and the bottle gets squished.
Yeah.
You know, if you like let your tongue go a little bit, like, get sucked in there.
Can't say I've ever tried
You never
that.
did that as a kid?
No.
You used to suck it down and you're like, Let your tongue in there. Anyway, it's the same principle, right? As you're releasing the vacuum, the resin gets sucked in. Therefore, the air that was trapped inside of that ship is now resin, right? So there's no chance of air coming back out.
No.
That also worked with, you guys would have seen the koala episode.
Oh, that worked out well, hey?
Like,
yeah.
that was a stuffed animal full of air.
Yep.
And I vacked it down first. I pulled all the air out, replaced that air with the resin. I then cured it inside the pressure pot and had a perfect casting.
Perfect casting.
So these two can work hand in hand. We do often use the vacuum first, then pressure. I guess if you could only afford one of these, you'd have to get the pressure pot.
You would, yes.
Curing in the pressure pot is almost, I'll say almost, a guaranteed perfect casting.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't always work.
No.
But most
of the time.
Most of the time it does. So if you can only afford one, I would recommend the pressure pot.
Definitely.
Now, not only can you get it in this size, which I think is the 10 litre or 2.5 gallon from memory, you can also get it in the king size, which we've affectionately named
Under Pressure Freddy.
Freddy, yep. Named Freddy, under pressure. And this is the big boy. You know, we have got a shelf in there at the moment, but as you can see...
Do you want me to take it out?
You can take it out, yeah. Oh, and there's one of our little mats that we've just cut up and put inside there. So as you can see, that is massive. That's for doing some big pours. Now, remember earlier when I said that the size of the compressor doesn't really matter, right?
Yeah.
Well, here's a good example. So we have a small compressor.
Yes, we do.
To fill one of these up, it's like, I don't know, 30 seconds maybe?
Yeah.
40 seconds?
About that.
But to fill that up can take 2 minutes.
Yeah, it does
plus.
take a long time, yeah.
Obviously, it takes a lot more air, but that just goes to show that you don't need a massive compressor. Just because I have a big pot like that doesn't mean I need a massive compressor.
Yeah,
you know?
that's right.
That little baby one over there still fills Freddy.
Yeah, just takes a little longer.
Yeah, it just takes a bit longer. Actually, while we're down here looking at pots, how about I show you our generation of pots? Because this is the very first pot I ever made. I think, what, six years ago now?
Yeah, 6-7 years ago.
And you couldn't buy a dedicated pressure pot, so I had to buy a paint sprayer. And this is how it ended up looking. Now, it did start off life exactly the same as these ones, but as you can see, these have still got all the regulators on them. And me being a novice thought, I don't need any of that kind of stuff.
No, so you took them all off, yeah.
So I took everything off, and to be honest, it was a pain in the butt because they are on so tight. So I took everything off because I figured, hey, I just need one in, one out, right? You don't need any of the other fancy stuff. But over the years, I learnt that all I had to do was block off the other inlets and outlets. So it had one here that I just put a little valve on, and one here that I just blocked off with a bolt, right? But I've now learnt the easiest way to do it is to just screw on these. These are the same fittings that are on the hose that you just clamp onto your air tools.
Yeah, that's way easier.
Way easier. So I buy a couple of them, I screw them on, that blocks the outlets, and then I've got my one in and out just here. So if you do have to buy a paint sprayer, easy to do. Just block them off. And then actually inside of here, you can see that there was the pickup for the paint, so there was a tube there, and I actually just cut it off. Sometimes you can unscrew them, but other times the manufacturer makes them that tight, I just can't get them off. So
yeah, so you just had to hacksaw it off?
So I just hacksawed it off. So that's the evolution of pots. I think there's still a couple more next door, actually.
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
So that is basically what we use the vacuum chamber for. So degassing the resin is number one, and pulling the vacuum out of items that we think have air inside.
Yep.
And if you're unsure, always do that first.
Yeah, that's right.
Just to be safe.
Yeah.
How am I doing, guys? Am I confusing anyone? Am I keeping it fairly simple?
I think you're keeping it fairly simple.
Yeah. So just to clarify, the pressure pot, we use a air compressor to pump air in, squishing the resin so tiny we can't see the bubbles.
Yep.
And a vacuum chamber, we use a vacuum pump to pull the air out, effectively degassing the resin or pulling air out from inside. Oh, what? I just put it over here. Pulling air out that's inside your model or your stuffed toy or whatever you want.
Whatever object you've got in resin.
Whatever you want to stick inside.
Yeah.
So I hope I haven't lost anyone. I hope that is fairly simple to distinguish the two. So I think what we might do now is we'll mix some resin, introduce a crap ton of bubbles. We'll put it inside our little pot here. We'll run pot cam and we will watch it do its magic. What do you reckon?
Great idea.
So we've gone ahead and poured our resin. This is just some Art Cast slow set.
Yep.
Mixed it 3-to-1. Don't be shy, darling. Let's get some. Let's get some.
I don't want to spill it.
I mean, you're being all, what is it, dainty now.
Dainty.
Normally, yeah.
Yeah, but I've got a bigger cup when I do that.
Maybe what we should do is, have we got like one of those little electric mixers?
No, we don't.
We don't have one?
No.
Oh. Because you can get like a little, what are they,
Little,
like your coffee one.
like your cappuccino one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd really love to try and get a boatload of bubbles in there.
I'm doing my best.
Doing your best. Maybe we should get a whisk
A whisk.
and just whisk it.
I think the whisks we have are too big. They wouldn't even fit in the cup.
No?
No.
I just found one that we could use.
Okay.
I hope it works.
I hope so too.
Hold on to that cup
I
tightly.
will.
Just go nice and easy to start, maybe,
Okay.
so it doesn't fly out the top. I mean, this is massive overkill. We're only doing this for science. Yeah, don't be scared to come in and out. Okay, how's that looking?
Check those bubbles out.
Yep.
Look at that.
That is some bubbles right there. Okay, what do you think? Let's pop it into the
Yeah.
pressure pot. Now I've got the lid over here. Now make sure when you go to put your lid on that you check the seal periodically.
Yes.
There is a little seal under there. I should have shown you before whacking it on. But you can get sometimes little bits of resin and that caught on it. And you'll often find when you go to put the air in, it'll like squeak at you.
It will, yeah. It's done that to me a couple of
Yeah,
times.
and that's because it hasn't made a good seal. So we'll get the clamps down. So now that we have the lid on tight, we can put our air in via our hose. Now before we do that though, you need to make sure that this lever is in the closed position. Now the easiest way to think about it is imagine that this is a gate and there's an imaginary line across here, so that when the air goes in and comes down, it's blocked by the line, which means air can't go in. And when you bring it up like this, it means the gate is open and air can go in and fill the pot. Now the reason you want it closed before you plug that in is because if it's like that and you plug it in, it's going to rush straight in and blow all your resin everywhere.
I don't know how people do that.
Oh, I wonder. So yeah, always make sure you're closed. So we can now pop the hose on there. The compressor's just kicked on. As you can hear, it's not that loud. And now what we need to do is we need to pump it up until we reach, oh, it's a bit hard to see, till we reach our 60 psi. So I'm just going to slowly let the air in. Okay, we're at 60 psi. You can take that hose off now, darling.
Yep.
There we go. And now, because our outlets are sealed, it will hold the pressure and we will now leave it in there until it's cured. But what we'll do is I think we should sit down with the guys right now and watch it cure on pot cam.
Good idea.
Okay, are we ready to watch pot cam?
We're ready.
Let's start with the air going in. Look how many bubbles are there.
So many of them, hey?
There would have to be hundreds of thousands of bubbles.
Yeah.
And as the pressure increases, you can see it's starting to look clearer.
Like
and,
right down the bottom.
yeah, and that's because we're increasing the air pressure, we're squishing the bubbles.
Yeah.
So they're getting tinier and tinier. can see already how clear it's becoming.
Yeah. Still feels like it takes forever to fill it.
Yeah. I think it would be a good 30 seconds maybe.
Maybe.
Now once the air stops and we take the line off, as you guys know, pot cams can be boring. They can take 15 minutes. So I do speed them up. So we're about to go into warp speed, which you'll see in a moment, and you watch how fast these bubbles disappear. You ready?
No, it's like instant when you speed it up like that.
And the
Yeah,
count,
it's like 2 or 3 minutes.
Yep, 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And the bubbles are gone.
Yeah, and then you can see it start to set from top to bottom.
Yep, at about the 9-minute mark. And then looking at the bottom there, it's fully set at about 14 minutes.
Yep. Yep.
Now, if we just go back and have another look, you'll see around the 4 or 5 minute mark, you'll see some steam at the top there.
At the top.
And then see it set from top to bottom.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool to see.
It
hey?
is, yeah.
So we are fully cured. Well, not fully cured. We're set.
Yes.
We're set at the 15-minute mark. Now, the reason we know that is because we use this resin a lot, which is our Art Cast slow set.
It is, yeah.
So we know the characteristics of it. We know that about 15 minutes, it's pretty good. If we needed to, we could have picked that pot up, move it around. It wouldn't have been a drama. Now, even though it's set, that doesn't mean it's cured.
No, no.
You know, if we had an object in there and we did let the air out straight away, there's a good chance we get a fracture.
Fracture, yeah.
All right, so you do have to leave it in there until it's fully set. And I do recommend checking with your manufacturer's
Definitely,
specs.
always do that.
We like to do a minimum of 6 hours.
Yeah.
If there's nothing inside, if it's just resin, 6 hours is good for what we use. But there are some resins that need 24 hours.
Yes.
48 hours even.
Yeah.
So make sure it stays under pressure for as long as you need for whatever resin you are using.
Exactly, yeah.
To be safe. But we know with ours, we can pull it out after 4, and we're pretty good. So, but that was pretty cool to watch.
That was awesome.
So you increase the pressure, the bubbles get squished, and your resin becomes clear almost instantly.
Yeah.
Now, like we said, if you didn't have a pressure pot, you can do it outside, but you need a slow curing resin with a good release agent. And what the release agent does is it helps the bubbles, helps the bubbles rise and disappear. So that's the alternative to not having a pressure pot.
Yeah.
So we have now left the pot to sit for our 4 hours.
Yep.
And it is now time to take it out and have a look at our casting. So we need to let the air out, which we do by lifting the lever. Now I like to do this nice and slow.
Yeah.
There's no need to rush it. Okay, let's crack this lid off, hey?
I don't know if I'll be able to do it.
Okay, are we ready to see our nice clear casting?
Yep.
Ta-da! Have a look at that. I think that looks pretty good, darling.
Crystal clear.
It's what?
It's crystal clear.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Now, I'm not going to waste that. I'll keep that because I like to keep blocks of resin in case I need waste blocks and things like that.
Good idea.
I do keep a few under there, so that'll just go with that collection. But yeah, hard as a rock. After 4 hours.
4 hours, yep.
Looking pretty good. Now, I forgot to mention that if you do cure under pressure, it does accelerate the curing process.
It does, yeah.
So if we were to do that outside of the pot, it wouldn't be as hard as fast.
No.
So that is another advantage of a pressure pot. Now there is one thing I quickly want to talk about, and that is I want to talk about the safety relief and the regulator. So let's clamp it back up. We'll plug some air back into it, and I can demonstrate how all that works. Okay, so the first thing we're going to demonstrate, if you want to start putting some air in there, is the safety relief valve, which is on the back there. And they might be different on different pots.
Yeah.
We do, the ones down there are like a side spring that come out. I'm not sure what Freddie's got. Yeah, Freddie's got a...
He's got one on the top here.
Yeah, and you can kind of...
It's got like a little...
You can kind of pull it up if you need to
Yeah.
release the...
It's like spring-loaded.
Like an emergency release. But yeah, this one's just got it on the back here. Now, like I said before, you don't want to rely on the relief valve, but it is there as a safety. Okay, I can hear it. Do you want to just pop the compressor off so we can hear it, darling? So can you guys hear that? Now if I touch it, it stops. So basically what's happening is there's a spring inside of there and the air pressure is rising, causing the spring to rise and then allowing the air to come out of the side here. So that is how your safety works. So if I was to keep pumping that, basically it'd just keep going and forcing that even higher.
It back out, yeah.
Eventually it will make like a pop noise, like it'll proper pop and release hard. But yeah. So as you can see, it's kind of foolproof. Don't rely on it though.
No.
Always make sure you babysit your pots. Now there is one other thing I want to show you, and that is the regulator. Now what we need to do is put the airline back on again, darling.
Yep.
And we'll pump it out. Now I have screwed this all the way out, right? So when we start to add air now, it won't go up as high as it did before. So I can open that the whole way and see how we've stopped just over 20 psi.
Oh, okay.
Now if I screw this regulator in, you watch what happens to the needle. See the needle going up?
Oh, yeah, it's going up, yep.
So this is another kind of foolproof way of not over pressurizing your pot.
Yeah.
Because when you first get it and set it up, what you can do is screw that all the way out. Then, as your compressor's running and you're putting air in, you can slowly dial this up.
Oh, so it stops at what you
Yeah,
feel
at what you
comfortable
set
at
it at.
or
It's
what
kind
you set it at.
yeah, you're basically setting a limit.
Yes.
Which is what the regulator does. So once you've got it screwed up to the 50 or the 60, you can leave it and it should be okay.
Yeah.
You just got to watch people don't tamper with it.
Yes.
You know, if kids come in and they're playing around with it. That's why I don't like to use it as such. No. I like to just screw it all the way in, which is basically the max pressure. So it's not regulating at all. And then it's basically just up to me to regulate my airflow via the valve.
Yeah.
Which I feel is safest for me anyway. So yeah, I think we've covered the pressure pot. What do you think?
I think we have, yeah.
Yep. Do you feel a bit more confident now with it? Because I know you were a bit worried in the past, weren't you?
Sometimes I have dreams that it blows up in my face or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Providing you do have a safety and you stay under your max pressure, always look at the manufacturer's specs.
Yep.
That is a big, big, big one.
Yeah.
You know, always make sure that...
That's why when I'm unsure, I always come and check with you before I do anything.
Yep. But I know I do see a lot of comments where people are like, I bought a pressure pot and I'm scared to use it.
Yes.
Don't be scared to use it. No. Because they do have these safety measures in place.
Exactly. And
as long as you make sure that your gauge doesn't go above the manufacturer's specs,
you'll be fine.
You should be okay. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it, isn't it?
It is.
Pressure pot is covered. Now, if I did miss anything or there's something you want to know, leave us a comment.
Yep, absolutely.
We'll try to reply. I won't try. I will.
You will reply.
I will reply to everyone's questions on that. So yeah, I think we should move on to the vacuum chamber.
Good idea. Yep.
And here are our vacuum chambers. We have our original, which you guys saw in the beginning. And these are the two that we got, one from Let's Resin, one from Resiners. Now, we have used these on the channel before.
We have, yeah.
We actually did a bit of a drag race, didn't we?
We did, yeah.
Where we put them up against each other.
Yeah.
I think, what were the outcomes? I think this one was faster, but you had to keep an eye on, there's a little bung at the back here.
Yeah, this little thing here.
That releases the vacuum, because when you're vacuuming your resin, it can create a froth on top.
Yeah.
And
you don't want it to overflow.
No, so you had to sort of be on the ready to
Yes.
pick that out. Whereas
this one does it.
it was a bit slower, and it did have the one button function to release the pressure.
Yeah.
So as it was getting to possibly overflow, you could just hit that and it would release it automatically for you, then build it back up.
Yeah. They both have their own pros and cons, don't they?
Yeah. I like this one because the lid's easy to come off.
Yeah, this one's sort of have to...
Yeah, after it's actually created a vacuum,
Yeah.
it sticks a lot.
Yep. It's got really good suction.
It does. But like we say, that one probably works a bit hard. Like if you had an object like the stuffed toy, or
yeah, this would be good.
That would probably be better than that one.
Than this one, yeah.
But each to their own.
Yeah.
I personally, old habits die hard.
Yeah.
I like my one. That's the small one. This is the bigger one. This one's quite massive. And I got a little pump back there. Well, she's a bit dirty. But yeah, I like using my big one, and you like using this one.
Yeah.
More of a habit thing.
It is.
I think. But yeah, so what we're going to do is we're going to mix up a couple of cups. We will do one inside of one of these.
Yeah.
We'll do one inside of there. Now, so we don't waste the resin, we've just grabbed a Phoenix mold. We might have to get another one actually. We'll pour two, so we'll do a couple of Phoenixes.
Okay, yep.
I think. But yeah, so if you guys are going to use one of these style pots, this style, you will need a pump. This is a single stage vacuum pump, 3 CFM and a 1/4 horse motor. You basically, when you first get these, you've got to fill them with oil. So there's a min line, a max line. There is a special oil that goes in them. I do have some, I think, up there. It's a special type of pump oil. You can get it from an automotive shop. I think I got mine from Repco.
Yeah,
from,
I think so.
From memory.
Yeah.
You take the top off, you fill it up because they need oil. They're like a vane pump. Then you connect your line, screw it onto the side here. Now, if you are going to go this road, I do recommend getting one with the gauge on the side and not on the top. As you guys know, I did have one blow up in my face.
Yes.
And as you can see, it was quite scary. So I've gone away from that. It was a plastic lid too, but it was really thick.
Yeah.
And I think where this fitting went in the top, it started to create little cracks, and that's where it just imploded.
Yeah.
So as you're creating a vacuum, it's pulling hard down on that lid, and it cracked, hit the bottom, and then bounced back up and nearly took my head off.
Yeah, it wasn't great.
So that's when I switched to one in the side here, and never had a drama.
No.
It's been brilliant. So simple setup. Got your vac pump. You take it to one side of the T, what do you call it? T valve, I guess. And all you do is you turn it on, you close this one off, and it creates the vacuum. The needle will start to turn around. And that's basically
pretty
it.
Simple, yeah.
This is pretty simple. The only thing, probably the most dangerous part on this one is to make sure your lid is centered.
Yes.
Because if you have your lid off to the side a little bit like that, or maybe not that much, but there, it can chip the corner of the glass, because that's just a glass lid. And then once that chips, it can break.
Yeah.
So the number one rule for this vacuum chamber is to make sure your lid has even overhang all the way around.
And to make sure that you've got nothing.
Yep, make sure your seal is clean. You can see, you can
this
see
is
there
a bit
like
dirty.
bits of resin get stuck to it and things like that. Keep it all nice and clean, that way you won't have a drama. So yeah, do we want to demonstrate that?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay, let's get some resin mixed up. How you going there, darling? Is it looking good?
Yeah.
Got some bubbles in there? Oh yeah.
Heaps of bubbles.
Heaps of bubbles. Okay, let's whack it inside the vacuum chamber. Now this has a little silicone mat in the bottom as well. Lid goes on. Do you want to center that for me, doll? Sure. So nice and centered. So you'll notice this gauge will go the opposite way to the pressure. The pressure one started on this side and built pressure, and this one will start on this side and create vacuum.
There we go.
Okay, we're ready to go?
Yep.
So all we have to do is we turn the pump on. That'll start pulling vacuum through this tube. Now, this is the lever you have to close, because at the moment, if we leave it open, it's just going to suck air through there. and it won't create a vacuum. But the minute we close that, it then starts pulling from inside of here, and because no air can get in because there's a seal, that's how we get our vacuum. So
Yep.
let's demonstrate to the guys, hey?
Yep.
Okay, I'll turn this. It'll start creating the vacuum. You'll see the needle will start to move. There we go. And now you can watch on top here. I'll just sit the phone there like that. It can be a long process, and you do need to keep an eye on it, because if the resin does start to overflow, you will need to back that lever off that I just showed you. So you can see here we're creating our vacuum. Some pumps are good enough to get a vacuum right down to -30. It all depends what brand you get. This is a cheapy one. Sometimes it pulls a good vacuum. Sometimes
it doesn't.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
The one I have over here, which I got first, does really well.
It does.
It pulls a really good vacuum.
Yeah.
So how are we looking? Got camera inception there, haven't we? I just wanted to show you guys the gauge coming down. Now you can actually leave these to run almost as long as you want, really.
Yeah.
Because these are designed to take max vacuum.
Yes.
It shouldn't implode, it shouldn't do anything silly.
No.
Providing you get a good brand, you know?
Yeah.
Don't use a paint can.
No.
Like, you know, actually buy a professional one.
Yeah, that's right.
You can, I have used this before to stabilize my burl.
I was going to say that, yeah.
You guys have seen that in some episodes.
We've left that run for hours, haven't we?
Yeah, where I take pieces of wood, I put them inside a stabilizing resin. You got to make sure they're fully covered. And how's this looking? I don't want to forget to release it. It's actually looking pretty good. I drop the wood inside stabilizing resin, make sure it's fully covered, and I'm basically pulling the air out. Same principle as having the stuffed toy.
Yes.
I'm pulling the air out of the wood and I'm replacing it with stabilizing resin. How are we looking? Do I need to release the vacuum?
No, I don't think so.
Oh no, it's looking good.
No, it's looking good.
There you go. So you can see there, all the bubbles have come to the top and popped. Now, to be honest, that's almost it, really.
Yep.
Now, if you do go much longer, you'll start to see big bubbles appear, right? They'll generate from the side or the bottom, and they'll come up in big bubbles. That's you boiling the resin, basically.
Yes.
You've created that much of a negative vacuum, it starts boiling. So you're no longer pulling air out.
No.
We might even go a bit longer to maybe try and show a bit of that. If this pump wants to be strong enough. It's getting there, it's doing a good job. Okay, so can you see the bigger bubbles coming up now?
Yeah.
So that's it, that's the resin boiling. You're no longer pulling that.
No, you're not pulling those bubbles out.
Aren't in the resin
No.
anymore. We're creating those bubbles. You can see they're getting bigger and more violent. Okay, so once you've hit that stage, that's basically it. So all we have to do now is release the vacuum. Now, always release your vacuum prior to turning your pump off, because you don't want to turn the pump off while it's in a full vacuum.
No.
Okay, so the first thing we do is we release it. And once we're down, we can turn the pump off. And as you saw in this shot, the bubbles just went away.
That's right.
So let's take it out and have a look. Do you want to take the lid off there for me, darling?
Yep.
And how does our resin look? Nice and clear.
Yeah, look at that.
No bubbles at all. Hang on,
No.
let me just grab this.
Have you got it?
Yeah, I got it all. Yeah, just want to say that again for me.
It's crystal clear.
So there we have it. That is how the vacuum chamber works in degassing resin. So now we can add a bit of color to that if we want, or whatever we want to do. Pour it into a mold. Just make sure that when you pour into a mold, do it nice and slow.
Yes. Yeah.
That way you
Don't want to reintroduce those bubbles.
That's right. And that's how it works. Pretty simple, hey?
Very simple.
All right, I think what we'll do is we'll go get rid of that next door, and then we should move on and test one of these.
Yeah.
So we're just going to use our Phoenix mold. We're just giving it a little spritz with some alcohol. This is what we're using, isopropyl. And now just gently pour it in. Looking pretty good, darling. Now, if anyone does want this Phoenix, it's probably now in the store by the time this video goes up. Now, since we're in here, I'll show you what else we've been working on. We got some polar bears here. If I can get it to focus, there we go. Some cool little polar bears.
Penguin?
Penguin. Robert De Niro's.
Robert De Niro's, yeah. Actually reminds me more of in Batman, Penguin.
Oh yeah,
Robert
that was
De Niro.
No, not Robert De Niro.
No?
Danny DeVito.
Danny DeVito.
Robert De Niro.
Sorry.
Yeah, so we've got some eggs on the go. We've been a little slack on the egg front.
We have, yes.
So we're getting back into that. Anyway, we got our pressed flowers in here. We've been doing some engraving. Yeah, we've got some ideas coming up with some Rubik's Cubes. Here's the koala, in case you guys hadn't seen it. Like I said, it's bloody good, isn't it?
Oh, it is.
So clear.
Turned out so well.
Anyway, let's come back next door and try out one of these all-in-ones. So yeah, if you don't want to purchase a pump and a chamber, you can get an all-in-one.
Yes.
Which they are far cheaper, but like I said, when we like to do bigger castings,
Yeah.
we need the big one. So, all right, which one do we want to try? Do you want to just?
I'm not bothered.
Not bothered?
Well, this one's already plugged in, so do you want to do this one?
Yeah, we can do that one. There are links to both of these in the description. If you purchase one through our link, it does help us out a little bit, so thank you very much. I'm not sure which one you want to go with, but they're pretty much same deal, aren't they?
Yeah.
All right, let's get some resin mixed.
Alrighty.
How are we looking? We got some bubbles in there.
Yeah, it's a fair few.
There's a fair few.
Yeah.
All right, let's whack it in. Now this one does have a silicone mat on the bottom,
Yeah, it does. That's a good idea.
in case you do spill it. Nice and easy to use. It's got a LCD screen on the front here. You just dial up your minutes. We probably only need 5 minutes.
Maybe 5 minutes, yeah.
Yep, and one hit, and the pressure builds, and your pressure reading is on the front there. Basically now, we just sit back and,
You just wait.
twiddle our thumbs a little bit. You can watch it happen in front of your eyes. Very similar to what we did in here,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
Just on a smaller scale. I'll just demonstrate to the guys how the one button release works.
Oh, yeah. Good
You
idea.
ready?
Yeah, yeah.
So at 95, negative 95, one tap. Did you hear it?
Yes.
Releases the vacuum and then gets straight back to work.
Yep.
So if that was overflowing, like I say, you just hit it, releases it, gets back going again.
Yeah, it's a
I
lot
do like
easier.
it. I must admit, I love this machine as well, but this here,
It's just a bit of a pain.
it can be a bit of a pain. That's probably about the only problem I have with that. Oh, and the lid is a bit tight.
Yeah. Like I said, they've both got their pros and cons.
Yeah, definitely. So once this is done, I think all we have to do is we'll pour that into something so we don't waste it.
Yeah.
And then we'll do a wrap up where we discuss, should you buy one of these vacuum setups or should you go for pressure pot?
Yeah.
Because it's all going to come down to your needs.
Exactly.
That is what ultimately is going to make your decision.
That's exactly right. So you can start to see the bubbles all rising to the top.
Yeah. It's pretty effective, hey?
It is.
So we're now on the second lot of 5 minutes, 30 seconds to go. And as you can see, all the bubbles are basically gone and we're actually starting to generate bubbles now. Like that boiling method.
Yeah.
So we're well and truly there. We will just see out the final 20 seconds. There we are all done. And nearly there. Okay, give that a go. Easy peasy. And once again, clear resin.
Crystal clear.
What is it, darling?
Crystal clear.
All right, we are going to go and use that up next door. We might pour a frog maybe or something like that.
Something.
And then we can wrap this up with what should you buy? So I guess it is now time to wrap this one up.
Yep.
With the ultimate question, one, do I need to buy one of these?
Mm-hmm.
And two, if I do buy one,
Which one?
which one should I get?
Yep.
I guess it's going to come down to what you want to make,
Yes.
what you want to do essentially. If you're into just pouring thin molds like this Phoenix mold, you're probably better off just getting a vacuum chamber.
Yes.
And you don't need one this big.
No.
One of these all-in-ones would be plenty.
Plenty. Yep.
Now, if you want to step it up and do some deeper stuff, now this is where it could get a little tricky, right? If you want to do something deeper, like this frog mold, now for us, because our resin cures fairly fast,
Yeah.
we actually use the pressure pot, right? But if you had a slow curing resin, you could quite easily leave it out of the pot.
Yeah, that's
Therefore,
right.
you could just use a vacuum chamber.
Yep.
Right, so it does get a little tricky depending on what resin you use and what you're going to do with it,
Exactly.
basically.
Exactly. Yeah.
So if you are a crafter that just likes to pour thin items like this, one of these,
Plenty.
not a problem. If you want to go for something thicker like this, providing you have a slow curing resin,
Yeah.
I'd still go for one of these.
Yeah.
Now, if your resin is a fast cure, then you're going to need a pressure pot.
Yeah.
Now, if you do want to do deeper castings, 100% you're going to need a pressure pot.
100%. Yeah.
Now, if you're going to do a casting that has things inside of it full of air, like the koala, you're going to need both of them.
Exactly. That's right. Yeah.
I don't think I showed footage of the koala inside the vacuum chamber, but I'll put that on the screen now. As you can see, the vacuum chamber pulled a lot of air
It did, yeah.
from out of the koala. Now, if I didn't do that, chances are, once I pulled it out of the pot, I would either have air bubbles or
Or
fractures.
fractures. Yeah.
But as you can see, it's perfect. Apart from it losing its color,
Which I think's cute.
yeah, it's got the Pokemon vibe. Now, if you do want to do things like skulls, once again, we do use I call it a faster curing resin. It is called slow set, but as opposed to a deep pour like river pour, it's fast.
It's fast. Yeah.
So if you want to do things like skulls, like our Marty skull here, this is the one, if you saw last episode where I got my cool new glasses, I put some eyes in him. I think that looks pretty good. So if you guys are doing a deeper pour like that, then I recommend a pressure pot. But once again, if you're using a deep pour resin,
Probably don't need one.
no, you can get away with your vacuum chamber. Because obviously it's going to take a day or two to set.
To set up, yeah.
Which then the release agent comes in, all the bubbles get released.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it does come down to what you want to make, really. Like I said, the simple terms, the most simplest way I can put it is if you want to do small molds like this, go for one of these. And if you want to do something large like this, definitely the pressure pot.
Yep.
Without a doubt. If I did one of these deep pours without the koala, I could have skipped the vac chamber.
Yes.
Which I have done in the past. You guys, if you followed the main channel for a while, we've been on YouTube for 10 years now. There's a lot of videos there. Go check them out. There's a lot of pot cams. I'll actually put a link at the top of the screen here. I have a video where we just showed pot cams.
That was cool.
Because we have had some amazing
pot cams, yeah.
We have had things burst on us. I've tried experiments galore.
Yeah.
Water, air, all
Food.
all types of fun stuff. So I'll leave that at the top there if you want to check it out. But yeah, I think that's about it. I hope this video has helped you in some way. If you have been unsure what to buy.
Or if you were confused or,
Yeah, I hope we've helped you out. Like we said earlier, if you do have any questions, let us know. We'll do our best to answer them all for you. But I think that's about it. I feel like we've done a good job.
I think like you've covered a lot.
I think so.
Yeah.
Well, it's probably getting up to 40, 50 minutes this episode. So if you are still here, thank you very much.
Much appreciated.
You're a true supporter and we love all you guys. If you did enjoy this one, hit the like button, hit subscribe, share this video, all the fun stuff. It's all free to do so.
It is.
And it helps us out immensely. So that's it for this episode. Thanks for watching and we'll catch you next time.
See ya.